Welcome to the Witty and Gritty podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Collier. Today is episode 297 in the Summer Thrive Guide mini-series. I can't believe we're already on episode 297. We're so close to 300. That's a huge milestone in podcast language. Anywho, today is all about 3 tips to stay consistent during the summer, particularly with those spiritual goals of yours. Before we get started, can I admit something to you real quick? Staying committed to spiritual disciplines in the summer is hard, and I struggle. I can't be the only one. Vacations, camps, schedule shifts, you name it, all of that can compound into something that takes my eyes off of God. This is why today I'm talking about my 3 tips to stay consistent during the summer. These have helped me prioritize God during summertime, so I know they can help you too. Plus, I've heard about 5 people just in the past couple weeks saying how their routine has gone out the window, which is why I made this episode. Let's dive in. We're almost halfway through June and summer is in full swing. We can all relate to schedules being thrown off and randomness being added onto our daily tasks. My goal for us today is to take our eyes off of all of those things, aka distractions around us, and focus on the constant, Jesus. Let's do a quick and honest check-in. This is a safe space. How are all those good spiritual discipline routines that you've established earlier in the year going for you now? I know my consistency has been thrown off. Do I get it right 100% of the time? No way. I'm not Jesus. Please know that you are in good company here with me. Whether you've fallen off the wagon or you're trucking along, know that there is always a way to honor God moving forward by doing the next right thing. I know I've had to check myself a couple of times already this summer. I know I can't be the only one who needs accountability. So let's dive in together. My 3 tips to stay consistent during summer. Tip number 1, set a goal. This may be obvious, but I have to ask myself, am I actually setting a goal here? Remember, good goals are SMART goals. If you haven't heard of a SMART goal, perfect, I'll explain it. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. If you have a SMART goal attached to your spiritual disciplines, great. If your summertime goal is not as fine-tuned as you want it to be, let's do an example together using the SMART acronym. Let's say I want to do better at attending Sunday church this summer. Here's the SMART acronym using that specific goal. Specific, attend most Sunday church services this summer. Measurable, attend 90% of Sunday church services this summer. Achievable, 90% is achievable, and it factors in surprises like illness or something out of our control. Also, shout out online sermons. So if you can't physically get somewhere, our church does a great job. You can use our sermons, or there are a million. Take your pick. Relevant. I want to attend church because it helps me be intentional with my faith. This part matters greatly. Time-bound. Summer ends when school begins. So that gives us about 10 to 15 Sundays depending on the school district that our kids go to. Your turn. Take a moment now and think about a potential goal you have with a spiritual discipline you'd like to focus on. Hint, ask God. He'll give you plenty. Here are a few ideas. You can use one of these to create your own using the SMART acronym, or just come up with one on your own. Or my favorite, ask God first, see where he's leading you, and then circle back. Here are some examples. Reading my Bible daily for 10 minutes. Praying 3 times a day for 5 minutes at a time. Meet with my life group every other week to check in on our growth. Tell a different person each week about something God is doing in my life. Listen to worship music on my commute to work. Journal thoughts to God for 10 minutes a day. Fast and pray 1 to 3 days each month. Meditate on God's word for 5 minutes before I go to bed. Plan 1 to 3 days each month to fully rest with a heart posture of focusing on God. Increase my tithe by a certain percentage for the summer months. Seek out at least one project to serve someone in need. The list goes on. Those are just some examples. So whatever God is putting in your heart or in your mind, go with that. The great thing about setting a goal with the focus on God is that there are so many possibilities. Once you've come up with your SMART goal, write it down and tell someone in your Christian community. Give that person permission to keep tabs on you and provide accountability. Yes, it can be uncomfortable, but remember, zero growth happens in the comfort zone. We know this. Tip number 1 of my 3 tips to stay consistent during summer may seem simple, and that's because it is. Setting a SMART goal works. It's because you're being intentional about what you want to accomplish, and then you're putting parameters around the goal so you actually get it done. My goal this summer is to be consistent with studying the Bible. I do a lot of Bible study in the school pickup line, but now that kids are home for summer, I need to adjust. I talk about this a little bit deeper in episode 294, so if you want that, it's linked. And on to tip number 2, make a plan. You may feel like you're thriving in life with those kiddos home this summer. Maybe you're feeling the opposite. And how in the world are you supposed to get any work done while your humans constantly bombard you with all the things? Another snack? You just had lunch 20 minutes ago. Or maybe you're somewhere in between those two ends of the spectrum. Whatever your circumstance, making a plan is the next best step after setting your SMART goal. Make a plan is officially tip number 2 in my 3 tips to stay consistent during summer. Take a moment to either say aloud or write down your SMART goal if you haven't done it yet. It's okay to tweak it at any point if the SMART goal isn't fitting into the SMART acronym. It's your hint that something isn't working with the goal parameters. Here's my example. My SMART goal is to read and study my Bible this summer at least 5 times a week for 20 to 30 minute sessions. Or however it realistically breaks up due to pool hangs, snack breaks, and Mom, watch this. Hooray for SMART goals. My goal meets all the SMART parameters we discussed earlier, but how am I actually going to reach my goal? One way I like to use to come up with a plan is a good old party invitation. Yeah, it's really that simple. When I was younger, if I wanted to invite friends over or go do something, I was required to gather information and propose my request. If it was missing any necessary info, my request was denied until I could come up with the missing information, or if my allowed rebuttal swayed my parents enough. By the way, this is a genius parenting hack. Through doing this over the course of my time in the home during those school-aged years, my parents taught the skill of independently collecting information on any given topic and learning how to pitch an idea. This comes in super handy for me on the daily, and you can bet I'm doing this with my kids. Here's how to use the party invitation format to gather information for tip number 2, make a plan. You can set yourself up for success when working toward achieving your SMART goal. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Again, this isn't hard, it just takes forethought. Now let's take my SMART goal and fill it into the party invitation. Here is my plan on exactly how I'm going to read and study my Bible this summer at least 5 times a week for 20 to 30 minutes. Who? Me and my Bible study group. What? Read and study the Bible. When? 5 days a week, plus 1 group discussion a week. Where? On my own for the study days, and with the group on discussion days. Why? To grow closer to God and learn more about Him. How? I am using the Bible study resource, Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table. It's by Louie Giglio, and this is the book we're doing for the summer Bible study. So, hooray, it's already planned for me. I can't get over how simple this step is. Take a few minutes to come up with your party plan. Write it down underneath your SMART goal. You can make a note in your phone, or if you're the good old-fashioned pen and paper type, get those gel pens out, girl. Putting in the effort to make a solid SMART goal, followed by making a plan with the party invitation format, it's a great way to ensure you're on your way to reaching your goals. Tip number 3, be disciplined. I will shout this from the mountaintops until the end of my days. The difference is in the discipline. If you look at the difference between those who make progress on goals versus those who don't, you will easily spot the difference. Discipline. Anything worth having is worth working for. With a coaching and athlete mentality, I've had years of training on the art of discipline. You can do this. Here are some pro tips for being disciplined. I'll break them down in a minute. Remember your why. Pray through tough moments. Invite accountability. My best advice for being disciplined is this. Remember your why. Oh good, you've already done this on your party invitation on making a plan. Pro tip, get deep with your why. List every reason imaginable as to why you want this goal to come to fruition. As a believer, one of my driving motivations behind why I do what I do, it's because of my why. Souls are at stake, and God has commanded that I go out and tell the world about them. Take a few minutes and elaborate on your why section of your party invitation. Set a timer for 5 minutes and use all 5 minutes of those to list out as many reasons as possible for your why. If you're ready to get serious about reaching your spiritual summer goals, press pause and brainstorm. Reality check. There will be tough days. And there's going to be times you don't want to work towards your spiritual goals. This is where you need to lean into your why and make yourself do it. The pro tip I use. This is when I big time pray. There have been countless times my flesh is fighting me and giving me every reason to not open my Bible. I know the enemy is hard at work trying to keep my Bible shut. So praying through those moments is key. Here's an example of what I pray when I feel this. God, thank you for giving me easy access to the Bible. I don't want to take it for granted. Please help me want to read my Bible. I want to know you more. I want to be close to you. And I know you want that for me too. Help me fight against my flesh when it's weak. Help me keep my eyes on you and focus on my why. Thank you for my God-given goal. Help me stick with it. When you can remember that the difference is in the discipline, focus on your why, and pray through the tough moments, you'll notice that you're more likely going to stick with your spiritual summer goals. Also, shout out back to tip number 1 when we talked about accountability. Do yourself a favor and let another believer who you can trust hold you to your goal, plan, and discipline. It will be worth it. Bonus tip number 4. You didn't even know this was here. Tip number 4. This works for all goals. There's more. My 3 tips to staying consistent during the summer don't just work for summertime. They work all the time. Bonus. They work on any goal too. If you've got a God-inspired goal he's given you and he said, go for it, these 3 tips to stay consistent during the summer are going to work for you there too. I am praying over all of those who are hearing this podcast or reading this blog post today. I pray that you hear God's voice and guidance today as you reflect on this episode. Pray and ask God to show you where in your spiritual life you could use a good revamp. Save this post and podcast episode. Share it with a friend. That way you can easily find it when you're ready to get serious about a new goal, or if you need to just reflect back and re-listen to this episode again. Again, these are short, sweet episodes, so you got time. Look at you. Well, that wraps up episode 297 in the Summer Thrive Guide mini-series, 3 tips to stay consistent during summertime. Help you get those goals going, y'all. All right, tune in next week. We'll see you then.